Shadow in the Trench, Autumn 2023. Somewhere on the front lines in a damp and cold trench sat a Ukrainian soldier named Andriy. He had been fighting in this area for several months. Dirt, constant fear, and death around him had become a familiar part of life. But that night something changed. Andriy and his comrades had just repelled another wave of orcs. The ground was littered with bodies. Exhaustion weighed on his shoulders, but he had to remain alert. He walked between the enemy. And that's when he saw it. One of the bodies lay in an unnatural position, as if it had been "What the hell is this?" he muttered, But the mom. Its skin darkened as if something. Blah, Andriy. Andriy, what's going on? I don't know. Some kind of devilry. Andriy, only a dark stain slowly seeped into the ground. Even in the dim light, it looked unnatural. All night, Andriy was haunted by sounds. Breathing, heavy footsteps, whispers. It was as if someone was moving between the trenches, but whenever he stepped out to look, he barely slept. And by morning, they found another body. It was an orc, but his face was twisted in terror. His skin shriveled as if something had drained the life out of him. On his helmet, someone had carved the word shadow. The curse spreads. Strange events continued. Soldiers reported hearing whispers through their radios, distorted voices speaking in a language no one understood. Some swore they saw shadows flickering on their own, twisting unnaturally in the moonlight. Then people began to disappear. One morning, Andriy woke up to find that 2 soldiers from their unit had vanished. Their weapons and gear remained, but there were no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away from the camp. Just the same eerie dark stains. Fear spread among the men. Some whispered that the war itself had awakened an ancient evil buried beneath the land, a force that fed on death and despair. "We need to get the hell out of here," muttered an older soldier, Dmitro. "This isn't just a battlefield. Something else is hunting us." But retreat wasn't an option. Command had ordered them to hold the position. That night, Andriy saw it again. He was on watch when he noticed a figure emerging from the darkness. At first, he thought it was one of the missing soldiers returning, but as the figure stepped closer, he saw its eyes. Empty, glowing with a sickly green light. "Dmitro, wake up!" Andriy shouted, shaking his friend. The entity took another step forward, and Andriy finally saw it clearly. It wore a Ukrainian uniform, but its skin was gray, lifeless. Black veins pulsed beneath its surface. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out, only darkness. Dmitro grabbed his rifle and opened fire. The bullets passed right through the figure as if it were made of smoke, and then it was gone. The next morning, Dmitro had vanished. His weapon remained. His boots stood exactly where he had last stood, but he was nowhere to be found. Andriy realized they weren't just fighting men. Something unknown had awakened, something that fed on their fear, their souls. And this was only the beginning. Descent into the abyss. Desperate for answers, Andriy searched through the ruins of a nearby village, hoping to find anything that could explain the horrors unfolding around him. In an abandoned house, he found an old book. Its pages were brittle, the ink faded, but some words were still legible. It spoke of an ancient entity called the Black Mara. According to legend, this shadowy being fed on war and suffering. Wherever blood was spilled, it grew stronger. Those who gazed into its eyes became part of its eternal army. Andriy realized that the missing soldiers weren't taken. They were transformed. He had to stop it. But it was already too late. When he turned around, the shadows had already surrounded him. The next shadow.